Hi, welcome back. In this video, I'll be discussing a few tips regarding interview preparation. And since UPSC has already released the list of candidates who will be appearing for interviews, I wanted to share my experience of the same. And my experience has been mixed. Once with Kilam Sungla ma'am, I got average marks, and the next time I appeared, it was with H.C. Gupta sir, and there I was rewarded fairly well because I changed my interview strategy a little, and it was about making or answering questions abstractly or on a broader level. So this particular video, I'm just going to show you a couple of things regarding the same, how you can answer questions on an abstract level. All right, let's begin. I'm answering a few broad questions. I've written everything down, so for those who can't really listen to this audio, they can actually read. All right. Why civil services? More often than not, people will ask you, why do you want to be a bureaucrat while civil services? So it's better to frame an answer. Many people will give you different kind of answers. You can have your own answer. This one particular answer can actually impact your entire interview. This could be asked as the first question of your interview. This could be the last question of your interview, or in between. So whenever you would answer this, or for that matter, whenever you answer any question, there are follow-up questions on the same. So this particular question, since is asked to almost all the candidates, I would highly recommend, please prepare it well. So I'm just giving you a broad framework which has helped many of us here, many of my friends as well, in getting good marks. All right. So why civil services? Let me take it to an abstract or to a theoretical level. Why civil services? You can begin the narration that India is still a developing country, and then immediately take it to state. That state, when I say state here, state is the government, not exactly the government, the state, not exactly the state, let's say Punjab or Haryana, but the state, which is the body which helps us run the country, the nation, that nation state, polity wala nation state. All right. Then you can begin your answer of why civil services by saying that India is still a developing country, and state here plays a vital role in sustaining the lives of many. We all know that in India, a lot of people, a lot of masses, they are dependent on state for their survival. And then you can say that a slight move by the state still has the potential to affect the lives of the many and change the ecosystem. All right. And then if you want, you can take up an example. This example is a specific, peculiar example of a train, Shatabdi Express, running between Chandigarh and Delhi, where one of the bureaucrats, he decided that it'll be worthwhile to collect the newspapers after the journey, so that it'll serve multiple purposes. One would be that people will stop littering the newspapers around the railway station after the journey is done, and secondly, the benefit that ensued was that the railways started earning from the raddi that they would collect. So I've written this here. The idea to collect newspapers after the journeys in Shatabdi Express between Delhi and Chandigarh started giving ₹1 million, almost 10 lakh rupees, to railways every year from Raddi. And that is just one route I'm talking about, Delhi Chandigarh. And that is just one idea. So you can see the kind of impact, the extent to which a small idea of bureaucracy can impact the country. So you have to build this narrative that bureaucracy or the state in India has a very wide impact on things in the country. So, okay, all right, coming back, that India is a developing country. The narration here has to be something like this in your head, that India is a developing country and state has a vital role and an important role in sustaining lives of many. So, now coming to why you want to be a civil servant. You can say that because bureaucracy is a service delivery arm of the state, and if I could help create a rational and just bureaucracy, I'll be bringing in more legitimacy to the state. Legitimacy, please note down this thing in your head. Legitimacy, you will be bringing in a lot of legitimacy to the state. It is missing in India. People do not trust bureaucracy. People do not trust state. You have to tell them that you would be that change agent that will attempt to bring back the legitimacy to the state. And you can add here that state itself was made to serve the society and not the other way around. In our country, a lot of us are serving the state. So instead, the state should be serving the society, and you would be that change agent who would be serving the people, the society. And then you can say that bureaucracy can do a lot for nation building by staying in touch with the grassroots. You would be that person who would be sensitive enough to be in touch with the grassroots. And a strong state can help in upholding the rule of law. Otherwise, if the state is not strong, as Fukuyama says in his book, if the state is not strong, he quotes the history that the states have fallen. Many other, Theda Skocpol has also said that states, when they were not strong, the countries, they perished. So a strong state can uphold the rule of law. It can ensure that the poor are served adequately, while strong institutions could help ensure accountability. But again, a strong state could become authoritarian. So you have to build this narrative that strong institutions, you would also be strengthening the institutions to ensure accountability, that you would not be above the rule of law. You would also be accountable. You would stay in your limits. And a strong state can commit to welfareism in a sustainable manner. Sustainable manner is a very wide term. You all know that. The sustainably, doing something sustainably is doing it for long. And this sustainable thing differentiates welfareism from populism. That you would be indulging in a lot of welfareism, but sustainably. You can add that after British left, it was, and it still is, bureaucracy that's involving continuous nation building. So let me recap it quickly. What your answer would be, why you want to be a civil servant, that India is a developing country and state here has an important role. Then you can say that since bureaucracy is the service delivery arm of the state, you would be helping build a rational and just bureaucracy that will help bring legitimacy to the state. You want to be part of such a process, such a system that will help bring the trust back to the bureaucracy, to the state. And you can say that this way you can help in nation building. That is one very broad way that can actually make sure that the nation continues to build strongly. And then you can say that you would be under the rule of you would uphold the rule of the law, and you would ensure strengthening of institutions so that sustainable welfareism could be done. Time and again I'm emphasizing on a few keywords. If you could use them in your answers, you would have to practice it. Read a lot, and I would suggest reading a couple of books on governance. A recent paper is available online, and it has been quoted in 2017's Eco Survey as well. That What is Governance by Fukuyama. It is one of the best papers you'll come across. Read it well. Then Political Decay, this book by Fukuyama, it also helps you get that political jargon in your head, and you end up scoring well. Alright, so I hope, if you want to make notes, I am actually quoting it from my notes itself. Okay. And then there are a few questions that are related to success or failure of schemes, programs, democracy, elections, RBI, etc. Again, I would highly recommend you to answer these questions in structure. That is, frame a broader structure in your head and then try answering them. Do not be very silly while answering these questions. That the question was, why certain schemes or programs, or let's say institutions, or let's say processes fail or they succeed. Then your answer should be should be attempting to take your entire narration, your entire answer to the level of institution. Start with your institutionalizing the process. That is, in India, institutions are designed according to modernity. For example, democracy is a modern institution, and then meritocracy is a modern institution. It is not part of our culture. Our culture was caste based, which is a traditional system. That is, institutions in India designed according to modernity, but what culture prescribes is traditionalism, bhai bhatijawad, nepotism that we call, and a lot of other things. That is, a clash between modernity and traditionalism is seen. Bring it back to civil services immediately. How civil services can help ensure success of schemes or processes. That bureaucracy can help iron out these differences between modernity and traditionalism by making people more aware of constitutional values. How you would do it? You can actually promptly say that how I would do it is by not only doing right things, but also by being seen as doing the right things. It is one of the widely quoted things, not only doing right things, but also being seen as doing the right things. That I'll attempt to institutionalize the process, that even after you're gone or shifted to another area, the processes would be established and they'll be followed, so that overall processes, so that overall constitutional values could be upheld. All right, then moving on, then if broadly they can ask what is required for better program execution, and this particular question can take up a lot of forms, different forms. I read it in one of the articles, so I'm writing it here. Infrastructure, that is physical infrastructure. For example, Swachh Bharat, they can ask you on Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. You can say infrastructure is the first requirement. For example, having dustbins, having toilets, functional toilets, having water, etc. Then financial support. Financial support is very important. That is, please mention that not only one time, that is not the very first time the process starts, but continuous financial support, because many schemes they fail because they stop getting funds from the government. Eventually they just start with the bank and then they vanish. And infrastructure, financial support, and then behavioral change. When you talk about behavior, please do talk about behavior of both the executives and the people. Many a times, for example, one of the things that we read, why citizen charter failed, because the executives, the office bearers, they were not ready to follow the citizen charter. So behavior of both executives and people, that is the one who are being served, the clients, the citizens, they need to be changed. So infra, finance, and behavior, and then you can elaborate them a little. In all these answers, what are we attempting to do? We are attempting to structure our answers. All right, they can ask you about your hobby or one of the jobs that involves public interaction or socializing. Many of us write hobbies which do involve a lot of socializing. Socializing could be online as well, or could be in person, either ways. So what you can tell them about these jobs or hobbies, that what have they taught you? These kind of jobs or hobbies, they teach you to be more sensitive. Please note down this thing: sensitive to the diverse needs of diverse groups of people. To diverse groups or people, there are, and particularly then, for instance, I was teaching. For instance, teaching as a practice helped me understand the variety in clientele, that some students are sharp, some are not. And for example, let's say if you're involved in banking, some clients are very cordial, some clients are not. So diversity is the key word. And why am I emphasizing? Because you would be using this experience in civil services, where you will be dealing with diverse set of people every day. So that is how you have to relate everything to the job that you are seeking. Also, you can add that your job has helped you become more rational and goal oriented. Time, please add time, within time limits, that you attempt to finish things in time while also being sensitive to people's needs. Sensitivity and being sensitive to people's needs is the utmost important thing that is required in today's bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is still so far from the common man that sensitivity is absolutely missing. If you could be that person who is sensitive to needs of the people, you would do very well in bureaucracy. And then that you can also mention as a dialogue, that it is very easy to be insensitive, but what our country needs is an empathetic bureaucracy. You will be empathetic. All right. So this particular question, like it rings in my head that what is your take on reservation? Are you against it? Are you for it? Or they can ask you specifically about Jat and Maratha, Jat agitation that we witness in Haryana, or Maratha that we witness in Maharashtra, or for that matter Patidar agitation in Gujarat, etc. There are many agitations that are coming up for the demand of reservation. How do you justify their demands, or do you not justify their demands, etc. So take this entire question to the problem of economy, that it is a problem of economy. Reservation is related to economy. How? That there is agrarian distress, all right, because there were back-to-back droughts, and then poor job creation by private sector. Emphasize this point the most. Private sector has failed to create jobs. How often do we see this question in UPSC GS3, that India is witnessing jobless growth, blah blah. Jobless growth. This thing is jobless growth. And then relative deprivation. Because these groups, Jat, Maratha, Patidars, they were dominant castes earlier. They dominated their areas. And now they are feeling deprived because other castes, they have excelled. They took up education and they excelled in present scenario. And they've gone well beyond rural milieu. So they are doing well. For example, in Haryana, I was reading about it. The Bania community took up the education greatly, and they're excelling in almost every exam. So it is creating a sense of relative deprivation in the minds of the people, particularly these dominant castes. So now thus people, they look up to the government to give them relief, and they ask for reservation. All right, what if you asked, so violence, etc., good or bad? Is violence good? Is violence bad? Of course. Please do condone violence. Violence is not justified at all. Violence is unjust. No cause, because we live in country of Mahatma Gandhi. Please do not justify violence. And as a bureaucrat, you should ensure peace, and it is your responsibility to ensure that economic growth takes place, because you would be the one who would be advising ministers, who would be advising executives, and you should give them free, fair and frank advice. So what could be done to ensure economic growth? So peace and growth. Dialogue, there's one particular dialogue that you can actually chip in with. It is by M.N. Srinivas, one of the prominent sociologists of India, that politics of reservation has replaced sociology of reservation. Sociology prescribes something else, but politics is prescribing something else. So it is one very good one-liner said by M.N. Srinivas. And then, is government justified in granting the violent group reservation? So what if people protest and get violent? And recently Haryana government also did give them reservation, Jats. So is it justified? Oh, all right, you should tell them that while state ensure peace, giving in to violent protesters could be seen as state's attempt to buy time. That state was just attempting to buy time so that they could call the violent agitators to discussions and tell them their point of view, because it was getting out of control in Haryana, and it did get out of control eventually. But for future, you should also tell, here is in future, superior intelligence gathering rapid action on violent agitators, standard operating procedures, because Prakash Singh report tells us that the top ministries, chief minister in particular, did not respond in time to the police, and that the top executives did not give clear instructions in time, and this led to the upheaval, this led to spreading of the violence. So standard operating procedures, that the ground level force could actually decide on their own with the help of standard operating procedures to rapidly take actions. Military calls it the rule of golden hour. If the golden hour in which they can take action, that if it passes, it becomes very difficult to control the mobs. So rapid action is the necessity. All right. And then lastly, before we conclude, I want to give you a few terms that you can drop in between, so that it helps create an impression that you are a learned person, that you could actually be a bureaucrat, that you could actually be someone who could represent government and that you could eventually be a spokesperson. All right, these terms, for example, I just quickly go through these terms. Affirmative action, this is one very solid term and explains and tells a lot. Then lack of precedence, you can actually use this term while telling about the problems of bureaucracy, that often bureaucracy does not have a precedence, a prior example or prior experience of a particular thing, and that is why they lack the ability to take rapid actions. They do not know what to do in certain situations, and this is a particular problem faced by many developing countries, that they lack precedence. All right, then class replacing caste, this could be used often while explaining smart cities and all, while explaining various social problems. And then lack of jobs, jobless growth, we discussed that. Then stronger state for stronger community. Please be sure in your head that when you say stronger state, it does not mean becoming authoritarian state. State was meant to serve the society. It was the vehicle that was meant to serve the society. And when you say stronger state, you mean it to strengthen the community, that you would want to create an institution, a process that would eventually serve the society, the community better. And then institution building, that you want to create institutions that even after you're gone, the processes last. And institution building, in this particular thing, you can actually quote examples of TN session, that how this one man actually got the election commission its due, that he created strong institutions, strong processes, that is why election commission commands such respect today. And this is one of his lines only, that he said that he did not only want to be seen as doing the right things, but he did not only want to do the right things, he also wanted to be seen as doing the right things, because public figures, bureaucrats do eventually become public figures. People look up to them. If they're not seen doing the right things, people stop trusting them. And then universal altruism. This is one word derived from Fukuyama's book, universal altruism. This is about how bureaucracy in modern times, they attempt to serve people irrespective of their identities. For example, in earlier times when there were kings, certain people were served better than the others. So the present state, the present societies, they are built on universal altruism, and this applies more to bureaucracy. That is, modern states are based on it. They have to serve all irrespective of identities. And then legitimacy is one keyword that you would be using often. Accountability, then rule of law. Please use these words in your conversation. Then being sensitive to needs of people. And then bureaucracy, this is one good punchline, that bureaucracy can help develop, or I would say can help bridge, please change it, can help bridge the gap between developing and develop. Our country is developing country, and you want to take it to this level, developed, and bureaucracy can be that bridge. All right. And last advice, last thing that I want to tell you is go ace it. This is your moment. Yes, all the best.